Tonight, a raging, out-of-control wildfire destroys homes in Newfoundland.
By this time tomorrow, my house could be gone.
High winds, hot temperatures, and conditions tinder dry.
Get out of the woods and to stay out of the woods.
The backlash to the widespread bans on camping and hiking in the height of summer. Lost in the BC wilderness for 9 days.
I don't know that he would have made it another 24 hours.
How search and rescue finally found him. Making Major League history.
Dream came true. Like, the dream actually came true today.
Meet the first female umpire behind home plate.
From CBC News, this is The National with Paul Hunter.
Thanks for joining us. Ian is away. The battle against out-of-control wildfires across Atlantic Canada is escalating tonight under dangerous conditions. Hot, dry and windy weather is fueling the flames. In Newfoundland and Labrador, homes have been destroyed and thousands of people have already been forced to flee. There are 4 out-of-control wildfires in that province, and the most serious, called the Kingston fires in the southeast. It's growing in size, and it's triggered a regional state of emergency for part of Bay de Verde Peninsula. With the sheer size of the fire and how fast it's moving, a lot of people are on edge tonight. Help from other provinces is starting to arrive, but as Heather Gillis shows us, it could still take days to get it under control.
Even in the town where thousands of fire evacuees are seeking refuge, signs of the massive Kingston wildfire are just over the hill. Officials say it's grown to more than 5,000 hectares Sunday, destroying at least 9 homes in one community.
I have a home in Broad Cove, and I don't know if I have a home to come back to. So it's uncertainty. It's a helpless feeling.
Everybody knows now that yesterday was a difficult day.
Premier John Hogan says more homes have been lost.
Unfortunately, we can't, based on the suppression efforts and the smoke, evaluate exactly what structures are lost at this time.
Evacuees are seeking sanctuary at this school in Carbonear, about 100 kilometres from St. John's. Among them, Gerard and Eileen Howell.
Well, I got a feeling by this time tomorrow, my house could be gone. Well, it's not good down there. And where I'm to is a lot of trees, heavy wooded area, and that's the way the fire is going to hit it.
Howell says he was in disbelief when he was ordered out of his hometown on Saturday, and the province declared a regional state of emergency for some 14,000 people living on the Bay de Verde Peninsula. Even with 3 other out-of-control fires burning, 4 water bombers, the province's entire fleet, are dousing water on the Kingston fire's northern edge, trying to prevent further spread. An additional 2 from Quebec arrived this weekend to help. But better coordination at the federal level is needed, says the head of Canada's Association of Fire Chiefs.
An office within the federal government to help coordinate and oversee resources across Canada. The days where we used to say that they were unpreventable or unpredictable or that the fire seasons were unprecedented, we can no longer say that anymore.
And just to show you how dry it is here, the grass is yellow and it is dead. And because of that, officials have heftily increased fines for breaking the fire ban to $50,000 to $150,000 plus possible jail time. Crews say that it could take days longer to contain these fires.
And Heather, what is in the forecast? And is there any help from Mother Nature on the way for crews on the ground and in the air?
Sadly, no. We are in the middle of a heat warning. Temperatures could reach the 30s. We've got high winds, which could fan the flames, and no rain, which means it's bad news for people, some of them who have been out of their homes for a week.
Thank you, Heather. CBC's Heather Gillis reporting tonight from St. John's. Wildfires are also burning in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, leading officials to make forests off limits. The ban on hiking and camping in the woods is meant to prevent more fires, but as Alexander Silberman explains, the restrictions at the height of summer are sparking pushback.
Crown lands are off limits in New Brunswick.
Get out of the woods and stay out of the woods.
The province's premier announcing the restrictions this weekend to prevent more wildfires like this growing one near Miramichi.
We are really hoping that at the end of all this, we will have issued 0 fines.
This just days after Nova Scotia issued a similar ban. No hiking, camping, fishing, or ATV use in the forest.
I'm losing sleep about what's happening.
The premier says the strict measures are a small price to pay to avoid devastating wildfires.
We must do everything possible to protect each other.
Those who don't comply face a $25,000 fine.
So I'm going to walk down here and go into these woods.
In a video posted on social media, Nova Scotia resident Jeff Evely filmed himself deliberately stepping into the woods. He's one of more than a dozen people already fined in Nova Scotia.
I have a ticket here, $28,870.50.
Some say officials have gone too far.
Government isn't my dad. This overreach in the name of keeping us safe and protected needs to stop.
I can't even take my puppy up the road and go for a walk down the trail. That's to me, that's extreme.
But fire officials argue it's necessary with extreme fire conditions. Nova Scotia has banned activities on Crown lands twice in the past decade.
The vast majority of fires in Nova Scotia are human caused. We should be able to prevent virtually all of our fires here in Nova Scotia.
If a fire gets going, it's going to be a catastrophe.
A catastrophe officials hope steep penalties will help avoid. With conditions this dry, large parts of Atlantic Canada are bracing for what could come next. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Saskatoon.
It's not just Atlantic Canada sweltering tonight. Heat warnings are in place through Quebec and Ontario. It hit 32 degrees in Toronto today, while Ottawa and Montreal touched 34, with the humidity making it feel like 40. The hot weather is expected to stick around until midweek. Dehydration from punishing heat, just one of the dangers for a BC man who went missing in the woods for 9 days. Officials say he might not have lasted much longer. Georgie Smythe shows us how he was rescued.
A refuge and a plea in the northern BC wilderness, set on the edge of a small lake. But it was this almost invisible SOS written in the mud that led to the improbable rescue of a man missing for 9 days in the remote Caribou region. Help signs visible from the air, all written by 39-year-old Andrew Barber. He was last seen with his pickup truck near Castle Rock at the end of last month, between the cities of Williams Lake and Quesnel, and was eventually found by this pond, just in time, say rescuers.
He was in poor health. He was having a hard time standing. I don't know that he would have made it another 24 hours without us recovering him.
Maps by search and rescue teams showed just how many times crews flew in over the terrain looking for anything until they saw a flit of light.
The observers spotted a glint of sunshine off the windshield from the truck, so they were able to zoom in and closer, and they did locate the truck.
About an hour later, they saw the SOS sign.
That's when they spotted a male standing by a lake, by a big rock with help written on it.
Barber, who had no food and was drinking from the pond, was taken to hospital and is recovering. Surviving getting lost is achievable, say wilderness pros.
First admit, I'm lost. Stay put, and then build a fire, build a shelter, get water, wait for help, and signal and make yourself as visible as possible.
Advice that in this case proved life-saving. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Edmonton police are investigating a hit and run they believe was deliberate and filmed for online entertainment. It sent a cyclist to hospital with serious injuries.
It's very sad, and especially if it's intentional.
Police released this video found on social media, which they say recorded the moment an SUV struck the 41-year-old man. Security video from the area shows what's believed to be the vehicle responsible speeding away. Now to the Middle East, where tonight Israel's prime minister is defending his government's plan to expand the war in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu says it's the best way to end the war, despite fierce criticism from inside Israel and the international community. Susan Ormiston explains from Jerusalem.
The purpose of this news conference is to puncture the lies and spread the truth.
Benjamin Netanyahu says escalating the war is the fastest way to win it, but admits his government is losing the information war.
Hundreds of trucks have gone in recent days. This is preventing hunger, but it's not prevented the global campaign of lies.
In Gaza Sunday, this was the reality on the ground, captured by a videographer working with CBC News. as soon as the gates opened, a race to an aid distribution center. Food more plentiful now than 2 weeks ago, but Gazans still taking risks just to get at it, with armed security on the watch. And casualties every day. This man says he was shot at. The Prime Minister is fighting scenes like these and blames Hamas solely.
The truth is that Hamas still has thousands of armed terrorists in Gaza. It subjugates Gazans, it steals their food.
On Friday, Israel's government agreed to a large-scale military escalation. It would drive out 1 million Palestinians settled in Gaza City, sending them south, and then deploy troops and airstrikes to rout out Hamas strongholds and try to rescue 20 surviving hostages, seen frail and emaciated in a cruel Hamas video. Israelis launched fresh protests against the war plan this weekend.
If you invade parts of Gaza and the hostages are murdered, we will pursue you in the town squares, in election campaigns.
The war can end tomorrow if Gaza, or rather if Hamas, lays down its arms and releases all the remaining hostages.
He timed his remarks to coincide with an emergency UN Security Council meeting in New York.
If he's so sure of this global conspiracy about the lie, let him prove it. Invite you, allow you to go to the Gaza Strip and see exactly what is happening there.
Netanyahu did say that he's directed the army to allow more journalists inside Gaza, but there were few details.
And Susan, just on the heels of that news conference, we're hearing a journalist was killed in Gaza?
Yes, a prominent journalist inside Gaza, 28-year-old Anis al-Sharif, was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza City, reportedly on a media tent outside Al-Shifa Hospital. The Committee to Protect Journalists had warned just 2 weeks ago that he was in grave danger after it said the IDF was targeting him as the head of a terrorist cell. Al Jazeera, whom he worked for, denied it then and strongly denies it now. The IDF is confirming his death. And the Al Jazeera is also saying that several other journalists were killed or wounded in that airstrike on Sunday.
Thank you, Susan. The CBC's Susan Ormiston tonight in Jerusalem. Ukraine's military says it hit a Russian oil refinery in an overnight drone strike. This video shows what appears to be the result. The governor of the area acknowledged an industrial facility was damaged in a Ukrainian strike. The White House is shaping expectations for a rare summit aimed at ending the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have agreed to meet on Friday in Alaska. Mike Crawley shows us how Ukraine fits in or doesn't.
New recruits to Ukraine's military, learning the basics of combat. They also get first aid instruction and some time to wonder whether a summit in far-off Alaska can help end the war they're poised to join. I want to believe that there will be a full ceasefire and peace, says this recruit named Dimitro. But how quickly that can happen, he adds, is an open question. Friday's planned summit in Alaska would mark Russian President Vladimir Putin's first official trip to a Western country and first face-to-face with a major Western leader since he launched his 2022 invasion of Ukraine.
President Putin, I believe, wants to see peace.
Donald Trump has already signaled that swapping of territories is on the table. Now this from his vice president.
It's actually very simple. If you take where the current line of contact between Russia and Ukraine is, we're going to try to find some negotiated settlement that the Ukrainians and the Russians can live with.
And this from an influential Republican senator.
You'll have some land swaps, but only after you have security guarantees to Ukraine to prevent Russia from doing this again.
What Kyiv and its European allies fear? A deal handing Putin large parts of eastern Ukraine now occupied by Russian troops.
We, of course, condemn the invasion that happened. We don't like that this is where things are, but you've got to make peace here.
It's Russia that attacked us. It's Russia that illegally occupied Crimea and other territories since 2022. The implications of how this war will end is so much bigger than just about Ukraine.
NATO's Secretary General is praising Trump for getting Putin to the table and promises that Ukraine will not be sidelined.
But it is crucial to know that when it comes to the future geopolitical situation of Ukraine, their sovereignty, there will be no infringements on that.
NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte also saying that Friday's planned summit is not about hashing out a final agreement, but for Trump to test whether Putin is serious about peace.
And Mike, what about Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky? Where does he fit in these talks?
Well, Paul, J.D. Vance is saying that the U.S. is working on getting Putin to sit down with Zelensky, although not necessarily in Alaska. And meanwhile, European leaders are weighing in with their take, a joint statement saying, quote, "The path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine."
All right, Mike, thank you. The CBC's Mike Crawley tonight in Washington. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is in Mexico tonight trying to drum up new investment and bolster the province's $2.9 billion trade relationship. Over the next few days, Smith plans to meet with Canada's ambassador to Mexico, as well as government officials and industry leaders in the energy, food, and financial sectors. It's the first official visit to Mexico by an Alberta premier since 2019. The trip comes amid the ongoing trade war with the U.S. It's changing not only how Canadians shop, but also what stores stock on their shelves. Julia Wong explains why some pickles are the latest casualty.
For Crystal Porcher, pickles are kind of a big deal. The Edmonton woman snacks on them at least twice a week.
I mean, always with a grilled cheese. Always. You have a pickle. It's classic.
But in many grocery stores across Canada, a jarring sight. The iconic Bick's pickles are not available anymore due to unfortunate tariff impacts.
We've got a border dispute that just makes that transfer back and forth across the border expensive.
Every year, Treehouse Foods buys its lids and 11 million pounds of cucumbers from Ontario. But assembly happens in the U.S. Now, when they come back into Canada, Ottawa slaps the pickles with a 25% retaliatory tariff.
That has, in some cases, really inhibited the retailer's availability to justify carrying them.
Bick's is only sold in Canada, so the company isn't relishing the dragged-out trade war. Sales are down about 25% in the last 3 months, putting the company in, well, a bit of a pickle.
And that's less cucumbers and less caps, things we'll buy in Ontario.
Amid the ongoing trade war, patriotism has swelled. But that could backfire in some cases, experts say.
That Buy Canadian is sort of coming back to bite, pardon the pun, the Canadian farmers.
Another complication of intertwined economies.
There are other products that have somewhat complicated supply chains, and I suppose pickled vegetables are an example of that.
Back in Edmonton, Porcher says she'll make do with what she has, but pickles being caught up in the trade war leaves a sour taste in her mouth.
Personally, it's not great. Obviously, I'm gonna be paying more for something that I love to eat. If I can't find them, I'll have to suss out some other options.
The company behind Bick says it's reaching out to U.S. lawmakers to lobby the Canadian government to remove the counter tariff. But with no guarantees in this trade war, businesses and consumers are left to deal with the consequences. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
A female umpire has made history by working home plate in the MLB.
That was pretty intense and very, very emotional.
The groundbreaking moment, more than a century in the making. Young travelers looking to get around on the cheap are helping buses make a comeback.
We're kind of like broke college students, so we just got the cheapest thing we could.
And a miniature donkey with a big heart.
He is ready to be a great donkey husband.
We're back in 2. Downtown Montreal, awash with rainbow flags today as thousands hit the streets for its annual Pride Parade. Cheering crowds lined the route as activists, politicians, and brightly costumed performers danced and cheered their way along the more than 2-kilometer march. A 48-year-old former art teacher has just broken Major League Baseball's gender barrier, becoming the first female umpire to officiate a regular season game. Philip Lee Shannock now on her trailblazing performance.
Joey Witz is ready. We hope you're ready. And here we go.
And with that, Jen Pawol makes history, becoming the first female umpire in Major League Baseball to make a call at home plate. The ball likely headed to the Baseball Hall of Fame, where the cap she wore in her umpiring debut Saturday will also be on display. That's when Pawol smashed the MLB's gender barrier as the first female umpire to work a regular season game, officiating at first base.
It was pretty amazing when we took the field. Just incredible. Like, dream came true. Like, the dream actually came true.
The crowd at Sunday's series final celebrated another piece of sports history in the making, as did the players, many of whom recall Pawol's work umpiring AAA games and during spring training.
Can't imagine how hard it is for her to have come up, and everyone says it's probably told her it was impossible, but to be a part of that, and they made a big deal out of it, as it should be.
Pawol says this has always been her goal from when she started as a high school umpire more than 30 years ago, continuously progressing up the ranks before getting the call from the MLB.
I always wanted to umpire. Like, I knew I had the bug. I had it in my DNA, and then making it a career. When I realized, wow, maybe I could be a major leaguer, then I just went for it.
Analysts say Pawol is leading by example.
It's not like tomorrow there are going to be a whole bunch, but I would expect that at the umpire training schools that there'll be a spike in female participants.
Pawol is expected to be in the MLB's regular umpiring crew rotation, and she also predicts there'll be less fuss and fanfare as more women and girls get into making the calls in all levels of pro ball, right up to the majors. Philip Lee Shannock, CBC News, Toronto.
Young travelers in Canada are turning to buses, leading to new routes and new opportunities.
It's growing. It's one of the biggest transportation markets across the globe.
The potential benefits for Canadians as companies take advantage. And a Canadian comic with a thirst for controversy.
I always feel like being an equal opportunity offender is the way to figure out the pulse of a country.
How Sugar Sammy's pushing boundaries and turning heads. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world next. A scary moment for a family in Los Angeles after a broken water main sent water gushing into their backyard, toppling lights and part of their fence. Officials say it was caused by a pressure spike near a valve crews were trying to repair. Young, budget-conscious travelers are driving demand for a low-cost bus service. FlixBus entered the Canadian market after Greyhound's exit in 2021. But as Paula Duhachik tells us, connecting a country as big as Canada is a challenge.
10C and 6C. Yes. Welcome. Thank you.
Travelers fresh off the airplane and en route to the mountains, not a rental car in sight.
Here, we were trying to stay on a budget, so the bus was the best option.
We're kind of like broke college students, so we just got the cheapest thing we could.
This trip from Calgary to Banff is one of the latest routes offered by German company FlixBus. The company launched domestic service in Canada in 2022 and says it's been doubling its mileage every year since.
We as Flix believe in intercity bus. It's growing. It's one of the biggest transportation markets across the globe.
FlixBus started with trips across the U.S.-Canada border, followed by domestic travel in Ontario, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. The company targets travelers from all walks of life, but one generation stands out. What do you think is the average age of people on this bus?
I'd say in their early 20s, maybe around 20, yeah.
They don't want to drive. They prefer public transportation, no hassle, actually travel. So that is an increasing trend. This is a strong trend, actually underlying our growth.
FlixBus isn't the only game in town. Canadian competitors like Red Arrow, eBus, and Rider Express say they're beefing up their service as well.
At the end of the day, having more companies come in and provide those services in the inner-city bus market is helpful.
But this transit expert says many rural and remote communities may be left out.
You'll need government support when it comes to looking at some of those further out places.
Arriving in Banff, customers say they got what they paid for.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So I went on them before back home in Europe, and it was a very similar experience.
For now, the company plans to keep expanding in the prairie provinces and from there into BC and Quebec. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Banff, Alberta.
Time now for the Sunday interview in tonight's edition of The Breakdown.
Trump's not that nuts. You know who's nuts? Is his supporters sometimes.
Canadian comedian Sugar Sammy uncompromising as he tackles contentious issues on stage.
Being an equal opportunity offender is the way to figure out the pulse of a country.
With a style that leans into the most divisive topics, he's shaking things up in Canada and beyond. In the spring, Ian Hanemansing sat down with Sugar Sammy to talk about Canada-US relations and audience dynamics.
One of the great things about comics is the good ones, and you're one of the good ones, have a real sense of what's going on with their audiences and across the country. And I'm curious, especially about US-Canada relations right now, from this side of the border. What are people feeling?
Well, the fun part is touring this country right after Trump's inauguration, and seeing these tariff wars happen as I'm touring the country. I've never seen Canada so patriotic. I've never seen the country so united, towards one goal. And even Quebec, that's how patriotic everyone, even Quebecers are feeling Canadian right now. And you feel it, it's in the air, you feel it, it's present while you're at the shows. I think you can feel the pulse of a country when you tour it, and you can see what's on everybody's minds. And I think that's something that's there. And when I joke about it, when I talk about it, the laughter is even more explosive than it was a couple of years ago when I just roast the Americans, very lightly, like, friendly jabs. But now it feels like we're actually standing on guard against them, yeah.
So you were in Calgary doing a show, and you mentioned that one of your dates coming up was in Edmonton, and people just reflexively booed, and you called them on it.
Yeah, and I said, I think we have a bigger war happening right now.
I'm going to 20 cities across the country, so spread the word. We're in Edmonton next week. And guys, we have a bigger war happening with America. Can you just get along with Edmonton for a second?
Now, you've toured the United States lots as well.
Yeah.
What's it like being a Canadian comic in Trump country?
It's a lot of fun because I like to go in front of my audience and go up against the popular discourse of the time. And I think there's something fun about challenging your audience and also figuring out where everybody stands. I mean, I remember touring the US last year and being able to call the election, knowing exactly how everyone was going to vote and being surprised at some of the reactions that I was getting depending on which way my comedy was leaning. Because I tend to attack everyone in every side. And I always like that. I always feel like being an equal opportunity offender is the way to figure out the pulse of a country.
Trump's not that nuts. You know who's nuts? Is his supporters sometimes. They're crazy. You run into some of them, they are crazy, right? Like, this guy's worried. He's like, some of them might be here.
You've been described as fearless as a comic, but potentially reckless. Like I saw a tape of a show you did, I think in Georgia, where somebody said, half jokingly, "We've got guns here."
There's what? Right to carry guns here. Okay. All right, cool. Look, she's like, she's like, be careful. Like, she kind of like give me a peripheral threat. She's like, be careful. We're allowed to carry guns. Daddy, come to the punchline. Tell Uncle Buck. It's all right. They're all jokes. I'm sure Georgia has a sense of humor about itself. No? Georgia doesn't? But if you're in a comedy club, people what? People need to. I'll probably get beat up sometime after the show. I'm not sure by who. But someone, that could be French, Middle Eastern, or Christian. For now, it's up in the air. Look, he's like, Christians will not do that. He's like, you're good. We got you. We got you, Sugar Sammy. KKK got you. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Thanks, man. You got my back. Right? Please.
I always like to get myself in trouble on stage and then figure out a way out, you know? It's like, and I love having that sense of fear and excitement in the audience where people are always wondering, how's he gonna get out of this one?
So there was a moment where, again, in one of these US shows, one of your audience members, whose name was Idris, said, you know, hi, and you were talking to him, and then a woman in the crowd shouted out, immigrant.
Yeah.
And then you took her on.
What's your name, sir? Idris. Look at this. Beautiful. Oh, Trump supporter. Who said immigrant? Was you, miss? Sir, are you an immigrant? Yes. But you have your papers. Yes. Nice to meet you. Sir, you are a gentleman and documented.
For me, the best part about doing crowd work is being in the moment. And, you know, her shouting out what she did was obviously inappropriate, and I think had I not called that out, it would have been such a disappointment to the audience. And for me, I think it was just a natural thing because I grew up with so many cultures around me. I grew up in the most multicultural neighborhood in Quebec.
Côte-des-Neiges.
Côte-des-Neiges, yeah. So to me, it was like I was defending one of my neighbors, you know?
But I mean, you were like, you didn't gently poke her.
No.
No, you you shouted her down, which she deserved.
Yeah.
But again, like, that could go wrong, couldn't it, for a comic?
Yeah, it could. I mean, that's where I think the experience comes in, you know? So having done this 30 years, you can feel, you have to have a certain amount of emotional intelligence about your audience and who's in front of you to know how far you can go and where you can go and how you can, you know, discipline that person and deal with that moment without losing the audience and losing that show. So there's that balance that you got to find, and I think that comes with experience. It comes with a lot of trial and error, you know, and that's happened in the past as well.
I love tapping into the barometer that you have for audiences, especially as you're in the midst of this tour across Canada. What about Canadian politics? Like 2 months ago, it all seemed pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
It was like, you know, the carbon tax and housing and inflation were the big issues.
Yeah.
What about now? Like, you've got an election coming up. Presumably that's, you know, going to be material for you.
Well, that's why I wanted to do this interview before you guys got defunded.
Too soon.
Too soon. Too soon. You're going to be fine. Comes a couple of your colleagues, but for the rest, it's going to be the Hunger Games. So no, I felt like, for me, I think just touring the country during this this tariff war that's about to happen, you can feel that that's the priority for everyone. And I feel like if this comes on, it's going to trickle down in so many ways, and it's going to affect everybody in so many ways that that's what people are thinking about the most. And you know, everybody just wants to make sure that they save their livelihood in their country right now, you know?
More from Ian's conversation with Sugar Sammy straight ahead, including his thoughts on comedic boundaries.
It's not about whether or not you cross lines, it's how you do it.
Why he says he's not concerned about being canceled. Montreal comedian Sugar Sammy challenges deep divides with sharp wit, cleverly navigating audience pushback while keeping them engaged and entertained.
I love confronting the things that people avoid.
In part 2 of their conversation, Ian delves into Sammy's upbringing and how it's influencing his unfiltered comedy.
Oh, you gotta run.
Is any Americans here by applause? Be proud if you're here, Americans. Your president wants Canada. We know it, right? We got to make it very unappealing for him. You know what we got to do? We just got to bring in a ton of Mexicans, give them citizenship. Look how fast he builds a wall to separate the two countries. Another American. What's your name over there? Nick, how long you been here, man? 5 years, all right. And then what do you do here, man? You're a scientist? Ooh, what are you studying? Canadians? You're probably just reporting back to Trump. They're very docile. Any Americans here by applause? Be proud of your Americans? It's $25 on the way out. There's a tariff to exit the building. $25.
When I mention you to other people, people who know your work, honestly, the first thing they talk about is how funny you are.
Okay,
That's the headline, right? And then the other thing they talk about is that you do bilingual shows, and bilingual being French-English. But you speak two other languages, Punjabi and Hindi, right?
right.
But in what way does that inform your comedy, your background, your ethnic background?
Well, I think that's interesting because I feel like no matter where I go, I sort of feel like the outsider. And I think feeling like the outsider informs my comedy, but also makes me, I think, the type of writer that I am, because, you know, good comedy is great writing as well, right? So I believe that, you know, had I not grown up this way, I probably wouldn't have had as much of a knack in analyzing a lot of different cultures. I went to France, I'm definitely the outsider in France. So when I go to France, I'm the outsider. When I tour Canada, I'm that guy from Quebec. When I tour Quebec, I'm like that Anglo, you know, or that ethnic guy. So I think having that everywhere, even though it could be a lonely place to be, it's such a great space for a writer because it makes it so interesting to have a very distinctive point of view on all kinds of things in society. And I think that's probably one of my strengths, is having grown up where I did. I think made me a stronger writer and made me more resilient and made me able to adapt and overcome a lot of obstacles in my career to be successful in different markets.
Let's talk a little bit about France. What's it like to be a Quebecer working in France?
I think it's great because it gives me permission to go into places that a lot of French comics wouldn't. So go into that society, critique them, you know, because my show in France is very different than my show in Quebec. It's an honest and severe critique of France and a roast of France coming from a Canadian, you know.
Hey, je rigole, hein? Je niaise les Français, mais j'adore la France. C'est mon pays arabe préféré. Look at the Arabs. Il connaît. Pardon? C'est les Arabes qui ont libéré la France. Et bientôt le Québec, Inch'Allah.
I mean, do you feel any sort of lack, I feel like the answer to this is no, but any lack of confidence to be like a foreigner to go into France and be critical of them?
No, I felt like...
You love it.
Yeah, I love it. For me, I love confronting the things that people avoid. You know, I like going into it. You know, there's such a division going on in the world right now, and I call it this cultural divide that we all live in right now. You know, it's present. It's part of the fabric of society right now, this divide. It's really divided. And we're living through this, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in the States, there's this internal division that exists. And for me, not to confront that, not to take it head on, I think would be doing my work a disservice. And I think it's the same in France. Going in there and talking about those things that are very taboo is fun as a foreigner, because if they get angry, you can always leave.
And I assume that there are lines that you won't cross. I mean, there's some comics who feel like there is no line, but, although now maybe not.
Well, I think it's not about whether or not you cross lines, it's how you do it. So for me, it's always addressing things honestly, but also doing it in a tone where it's optimistic. So people leave the show joyful. They don't leave thinking that was very mean-spirited. They still leave going, I had a great time, I was laughing, I feel a lot lighter than when I came here. You know?
We're living in a time of cancel culture, and you're doing these live shows, you're doing unscripted crowd work. Do you live in fear of cancel culture?
No, because there's nothing you can cancel me from.
What do you mean?
I mean, we're in Canada. What are you canceling me from? CBC Gem? City TV? Crave? I cancel myself. No, I mean, I produce my own tours, and I think I've created a structure for myself. He's still laughing. I've created a structure for myself where I'm able to work in such a free way, in such a liberating way, that I think it's, for me, that place that I've always wanted to be as an artist. And as stand-ups, it's the most democratic art form, right? Because most of the time, you'll see something in the news, and that evening you can bring it up on stage without having to filter it through, a board, a committee, some producers, human resources. You're up there, you can sort of comment on things as they're happening and in real time. And I think that's the great part about being a stand-up comic, is you can really just be up there and talk about those things that everybody's afraid to talk about, be that first one to unpack these issues, And I think that's one of our roles in society as comedians, is to do things like that.
So let's finish this with me asking you a little bit of advice, again, in your role as somebody who observes society. In these divided times, in your personal life, in my personal life, how do we bridge the divides, whether, at a dinner party or just a group of people, when people seem so polarized? How do we deal with that?
I think the key to that is being open to dialogue, being open to conversations. I think a lot of times what happened in the last few years is people would avoid people that didn't think the same way they did. And I think the way to bridge these gaps is to welcome different conversations at the dinner table, on television, in the mainstream. And I think that's the reason why not only are people divided, but media is getting divided. So you're seeing, traditional media only welcoming certain types of guests, and then, these podcasts that are blowing up, only inviting these certain type of guests. And I feel like there's that show missing in Canada that could be broadcast everywhere, hosted by a comedian that unites everybody.
Excellent. You're funny, you're fearless, and you're insightful in multiple languages. It's really nice to sit down and talk with you.
Same here, thank you. Would that work?
No.
Sugar Sammy's style seems to be paying off. He's already got 4 sold-out shows in Ottawa coming up in September, and those are followed by sets in the Middle East, Europe, and the U.S. Next, a farm in Ontario tries to find a match for their miniature donkey.
Hank, he's a great guy.
He was the best man at our wedding and the godfather to our children.
Hank's quest for love is our moment. This is Hank, a miniature donkey living in a family-run farm in Ontario. And that flower he's holding is meant to provide a little extra charm. You see, Hank's owners have set out to find him a partner. And tonight, that search for the perfect suitor makes our moment.
Hank is a 7-year-old Jack, a male donkey. He is ready to be a great donkey husband. We're trying to find him love, and hopefully we can do that soon. We're a family-run farm. My younger sister helped with putting together some of these videos with my dad. We all pitched in and reached out to friends, family, employees, and so on, saying, what has Hank done for you?
Hank, he's a great guy.
He was the best man at our wedding and the godfather to our children.
Hank saved my life. Thanks, buddy.
We've had people from out west to out east, many different messages, emails, DMs, pictures of donkeys here and there. The Barnyard Bachelor, it just rolled off and has continued on. We have to get the approval from Hank himself, really. So he's a great donkey.
I don't know whether to say good on you, Hank, good luck, Hank. I got nothing on that one. That was funny. Thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National YouTube channel. I'm Paul Hunter. Take care.